Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 36 of Stat Check. This episode is titled Inner Circling the Drain, because guess what we're doing? Hello, everybody. Well, is that one too much for you, Anthony? This was
It's
where we
just,
went too far.
Nathan made me just depressed before we got on, and it just hasn't gone away, and that didn't help.
If you can't tell, this episode is going to be a great send-off for the preview of probably 10th edition that's going to happen in a day, probably.
Yeah, it's the stats are fun this week, boys. That's all I really got to say. We'll get to that though when we get to it. Otherwise, hello everybody. Welcome to Stat Check. This is our weekly show where we talk about all things 40k that interest us in any vague kind of way, and pretty much just skip over anything that doesn't, because if it doesn't interest us, it's probably not important, or it's related to like Dark Angels. In which case, it's definitely not important.
Angels players if they can read.
I am joined, as always, by Anthony and Nathan. Jeremy is taking a well-deserved week off. Typhus is just back from a tournament, so sleeping probably. And XM1 with Cliff and Tim is on Thursday, so they're not here either. So you've just got the regular guys. We are prepping for some events in our case. Nathan, I believe you're doing Adepticon Teams this week.
Yep.
I am doing the Manchester Super Major. Anthony is doing All Is Dust. So we have got a bunch of tournaments coming up.
I was about to be like, I'm not doing anything, and then I remembered I'm going to Canada on
Friday. I'm glad I remembered. Otherwise, you might have had a really weird Friday.
I don't remember that later. But
so somebody definitely would have reminded Anthony. Don't worry about it. Somebody would have reminded Anthony.
Probably Nick on Saturday morning. Where are you? You've been paired. I'm in New York, bro. So yeah, we will be doing the usual. We're going to talk through our last week's 140k. Then we're going to go through the stats. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the meta. We'll take a short break, answer any super chat questions, and then we will come back and we'll be taking questions from the Discord and questions from the chat if we have time. We're running for about an hour and a half to 2 hours here. Depends how long we get into things. But let's start off with the easy bits. Nathan, how has your week been?
My week was great. I'm painting Lord Solar right now for the team's event. So I'm marbleizing some armor and stuff like that. So he'll be ready for the whole army to be painted. Otherwise, I played a great game against my first round opponent for the Stat Check Discord TTS major that we're running, where the guard played into Chaos Knights and the Chaos Knights all died within 3 turns, basically. But my opponent was amazing. It was just probably a rough first game for him as Chaos Knights, is to go into a gun line that basically just picks up every armature known to man if it gets a line on it. Otherwise, it's a good week. How about you, Anthony? How was your week?
My week was pretty good. I went to the Tables and Towers event, the Great Game. I played World Leaders for a day, and then I dropped the second day and came home. Because as I was on my way down there, I was like, wow, this drive is way longer than I remember it being. And then on Saturday, I realized when we woke up at 7 that the event didn't start till 10, and it was going to be like that for both days. And then it was a 6-round event. And then I had work on Monday morning at 6 a.m. And I was like, the math is not mathing good for me having a non-awful Monday. So I had a pretty good time over at the event, but not a burn a day of PTO that I would normally use to go to Europe. Good time. And so I dropped the second day. Was Wallace's first time running an event at a Tables and Towers, but he did a really good job, and he has a lot of feedback that he's taken on to make it even better for the next one. So
like a big sit giant Anthony can show up.
yeah. I mean, just stuff in that vein. So it's in a weird location now, though, right? Because like I don't really want to do 4.5-hour drives to get to events. So like it's close enough to where it's trolling to fly, but it's just a bit too far to drive. So now I have to like figure out
without like going on the Friday night and hoteling and stuff like that, right? Which you just
that's what I did.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, that's what I did. I left on the Friday night, but I was still like, oh, this is a really long drive. So yeah, That was I had a good time. Alex McDougall shot me a funny message on the end of the Saturday, like when my third round ended, and was like, "Hey, buddy, you want to let him fucking breathe for a second?" Because I was playing World Eaters, and my first matchup was Mono Zinch, and then my second matchup was a guy with 3 Bloodthirsters, and my last matchup was a Votan match where I went first and killed 8 Hearthguard turn 1. My opponents did not have super good scores after the end of those. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, probably had a good time playing some World Leaders, doing some stuff. My World Leaders look fucking dope. Jim's doing a great job on those. People get to see them.
What basing scheme did you end up going with?
It is the basing scheme was Mars Dust because I ended up going black and brass with the army. So
that makes sense.
There's like AdMech body parts on the bases and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Poor TJ, man, just driving that hill in.
Yeah, I mean, some days you die.
Entirely fair. As for myself, I went to a little GT this weekend run by one of my Team Scotland teammates, Matty, which was super cool. It was like an hour and a half away, so I crashed at Matty's house. We went for dinner and drank and all the usual things.
Nice.
Got sloppy drunk and spilled a pitcher of not my booze over somebody, which is never where you quite want to be.
Oops.
Introduce some new people to the ice game, which is always a fun escapade. Ruined some people's evenings. Ruined my own evening. Managed to gaslight somebody. It was great. All the standard tournament night is out. And won the tournament with Dark Angels, which was far less interesting than all of the other things that happened. I played 8 tournament games with Dark Angels. I am convinced there is nothing more to learn about the army, and I dropped them for Manchester because I was like, I ain't doing this to myself for another 5 to 7 games.
Have you considered the new indirect element, though, and how much you could learn from playing that?
I just put that on my Iron Hands list.
All right.
Reasonable.
Yeah, I'm running 10 in my Iron Hands list.
Only 10? That's starting to sound like not enough.
It's just because he doesn't have more.
Well, it's not just because I don't have more. It's because Iron Hands can actually run other guns that are good and Dark Angels can't.
Whatever you want to tell yourself, buddy.
Shut up. Don't do this to me.
We're saying aside from multi-meltas and talent masters, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, exactly. I happen to quite like the Volcon and I like the drop pod and I like
keep those things and still run 30 Desolators.
You can, but it starts getting real sketch if you want like infiltrators as well.
Who needs infiltrators if your opponent has nothing left to infiltrate?
Yeah, I feel like we're probably going to do what we're going to do just for Jeremy is we're going to have a Desolation Marine segment later that we can clip out. So we'll leave that chat for a little bit.
That is definitely actually something we should talk about because the opinion of the competitive scene has definitely changed from these are fine to why am I not taking like 15 to 30?
We're going to do the Desolation Marines conversation when we get to the meta commentary bit because it'll be a nice, easy clip moment that we can use to bait people into paying attention to us more.
Nice. Got him.
Five secrets about these Nerf Marines. That
the only other thing I did this week was I wrote a really cool article, which you can check on the StatCheck website, which is about getting better at 40K. If you want to hear more about that, you can check out stat-check.com and go into our article section. It's called Getting Better at 40K or something like that. But also, the X&1 show with Cliff and Tim will be having me on as a guest this week, and we're going to be talking even more about getting better at 40K. So keep an eye out for that. Take a look. 5,000 people read that article, which is bonkers to me. I didn't think 5,000 people would care about anything I'd ever done in my life. So it's always nice. So yeah, with that, let's move sharply on to the meta segment. Talk to me about how bad the game is right now. Because Reddit and all the other people are like, isn't the Orcs meta great? It's not great, guys. It's really bad.
The Arcs meta,
a lot of reasons.
There's 2 ways to look at the Arcs meta. So there's a lot of factions right now that are between that 55 to 45 range. Like the vast majority of it is in that range at the moment. But there's like 5 factions that are kind of just completely killing out in the meta right now. And they're kind of dominating all of the event wins, and they're dominating in overrep, and they're dominating in win rate. So we have just a few contenders for S tier factions at the moment. And then everybody else is kind of in the middle, so they can win if you dodge those matchups, but you're not going to necessarily be able to dodge those matchups forever. But this weekend, there were 17 events. And so bear that in mind as I talk about some of the statistics for event wins and some other stuff that I'm going to talk about in just a second. Top 5 for performing factions, ignoring Imperial Fist because there was just one guy who won 3 games and lost 2. Dark Angels had 46 players or a 6.5% win meta representation. So they keep going up. You know, we're more than most mono book factions at this point. They had a 66.7% win rate. They won 5 events out of 17, so they won almost a third of the events by themselves. They had 12 top 4 finishes and 22 top 10 finishes for a total of an overrep ratio of 2.7. We're starting to talk like a little bit close to like sustained Harlequin numbers. Not quite the same win rate that we saw with the Void Weaver spam, but we're definitely starting to see just like a maintained overrep ratio for Dark Angels, kind of in the 2.5 to 3 range at this point. In second place for the weekend, although I think it's more of an aberration and less of a real thing, is Sisters of Battle, who had a 56.1% win rate. They only had 1 top 4 and 4 top 10s for a 0.8 overrep. So even though they had a
30% next week,
it's because it re-unsorted something. Sorry, guys. Actually, in second place is Iron Hands.
With back where they belong. Almost really good.
Yeah, at a 59% win rate with a 4.5% meta representation, 1 event win, 6 top 4s, and 12 top 10s for an overrep of 1.94. I see that Anthony has his class raised at the back of the class.
What's the win rate for the successor chapters?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, we can talk about the summation of it. Let's pull it up. Iron Hands win rates for all arcs for Born Heroes. We'll do Master Artisans and Whirlwind of Rage is 68%, which is 167 games. So that's actually a fairly large sample size at this point. It's about 20% of the games played by Iron Hands players on a whole. So we do have a faction with a 68% win rate, just kind of chilling out in the background.
Nobody knows. No, we don't. That's Iron Hands is the faction. Ignore, like that's an outlier, man. Just discard that. Ignore it. They don't need to.
Sure, I'll ignore it. In third place, we have Black Templars, who have seen making some more waves online as of late. They've got a 1.8% meta representation. They had a 57% win rate over the weekend, 2 top 4s and 4 top 10s, and a 1.6 overrep, which is partially just because there weren't very many of them. There were 13 Iron Hands or Black Templars players over the weekend, rather. But I have started to see some excitement online, which maybe we can talk about a little bit later in the meta analysis.
You get a lot of free Melta if you run a bunch of the vehicles, which is kind of okay. And Hellbrecht is a kind of messed up data sheet.
Hellbrecht is fucked. Criminally undercosted is what I would use.
Yeah. It turns out Damage 3 is a good character. They have on a pretty good Marine body that's pretty fast for what he is.
Well, especially when he jumps out of an impulsor on that giant-ass base, giving your entire army +1 strength. That guy fucks.
And then, like, lots of impulsors with free Melta guns. This is pretty good, as it turns out.
Yeah. Melta spam may be good. Just maybe.
Don't know where you get that idea from.
Never. Leagues of Votann are in 4th place. They had a 2.7% meta representation, a 56.4% win rate. They won an event, which I'm sure a lot of Leagues of Votann players are excited about. There were 2 top 4s, 4 top 10s, and a 1.09 for overrep, which means they're basically perfectly balanced. Congratulations,
I think
Leagues of
Votann are
Votann
basically
players.
fine now. Like, they have some good matchups and some bad matchups. They're kind of polarizing in their good matchups and kind of polarizing in their bad matchups. They're just a little weird now.
Yeah.
And then to make our X and 1 team very happy, World Eaters are in 5th place, 5% meta representation, 56.1% win rate, 1 event win, 7 top 4s, 11 top 10s, and a 2 for overrep, which means maybe we need to think about what's going on with World Eaters, but not at the moment when we have a faction that's kind of at Harlequin-esque numbers.
Well, I think it's Anthony's fault for not finishing out that GT and getting another win in there to get them nerfed.
It's true. If Anthony had just won that event, they could have been...
He's just sandbagging, bro.
It's true.
Sandbagging to make them think Angron is playable.
Angron finished higher than me at that event, dude. We went to the same event. Angron finished higher. I don't know what to tell you.
That's clearly nerf Angron, then.
I'm playing Angron in the TTS league we're doing. Maybe Angron's just better.
I bet you're even doing it voluntarily.
Yes, that's true.
And then, despite the keening of Necron players all over the internet about how Necrons are terrible, Necrons actually did okay over the weekend. There were 22 of them, 3.1% of the meta, a 55.7% win rate, 1 event win, 2 top 4s, 9 top 10s for a 0.94. So basically just right where they're supposed to be for balance purposes. I know Necrons aren't like in a great place, but it does seem like, at least in small sample sizes, and based on some of the Necron play that I've seen in our TTS league, Necrons still can play, specifically if you're one of the better players out there, but they definitely have play.
Yeah, Necros are, again, they're kind of fine, and fine doesn't draw tournament players to really do well with them. So there are a few diehard people that are still putting in results. The average tournament player was never winning with them before, and the people who were playing them because they were broken aren't playing them anymore. It's the same thing that happens to most factions when they were really strong and now are just okay. It's the people who are playing them because they were really strong are now playing Dark Angels.
Yep. Then we have 2 factions where the win rate is kind of not the best statistic for sorting. You have Chaos Demons and then Astra Militarum. Chaos Demons had 44 players, a 6.2% meta representation, a 54% win rate, but they won 4 events, so just 1 event behind Dark Angels. They top 4'd in 8, and they had 18 top 10s, and they had a 1.89 over rep, which means Demons probably need a look, but we'll figure out what that means.
I think there was a Goonhammer article that went through the secondaries at the moment, and Reality Rebels is just like casually scoring 13 points every game or something stupid like that. That secondary might just need a little look.
Yep. And then on another note from that Goonhammer article with another faction with really good secondaries is Astra Militarum, who had a 7.9% meta representation, a 54.4% win rate, 2 event wins, 5 top 4s, and 15 top 10s. So Guard are now starting to win events with a 0.93 over rep, which tells me that the
Guard players,
the faction that's actually perhaps just okay. Who knows? Maybe that. I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Nathan,
I like
how are they doing in your Crusade League right now?
I haven't played a Crusade League in like a couple of weeks, to be honest. But I did definitely take that Chaos Knights player and just erase him from the table. So there was that. I'm not saying it's
that
great.
Should never be good.
But in the same Goonhammer article, they talked about how Inflexible Command is like averaging a 12 or something like that, I think, per game.
I don't know how you don't max Inflexible Command as a
but I
player,
also I don't know how you don't, because I think every single practice game I've played with that faction, I've maxed Inflexible Command. It's very easy to max. Yeah. You don't need to do anything to max it. You don't need to kill anything. You don't need to do really anything. You can sit in your deployment zone and not move your models and score 15 with it. Just saying. It's a very good secondary that probably just needs.
People are out there fumbling the bag, and we're not sure how.
Yep. And they also have a reasonable secondary and boots on the ground, where if you have enough infantry, you can score similar to Reality Rebels, essentially. Where if you just have an infantry unit in each quarter, you score a point.
Per quarter.
Yes, per quarter. And an extra point if you have a banner in the middle.
Just make sure the mortars in your backfield are definitely just getting you 2 on that turn. So, like,
yes.
The floor is 8.
Yes, the floor is 8. It's basically like taking another banners, where your floor is pretty low, or your floor is pretty high, so you don't have to worry too much about it, but it can also spike to a 15 if you try.
Worst case scenario, if I'm doing nothing else, I'm going to score 8 on this. Ooh, what a terrible secondary.
It is just awful. At the bottom, we have Drukhari, who just barely make the cut for me wanting to even consider their numbers. There were 11 Drukhari players with a 33.3% win rate. No top 4s, no top 10s, and so a 0 for over rep.
That is just so depressing.
I'm so happy. So happy right now.
And then next we have Death Guard, who had a 2.1% meta representation, 15 players, a 37.3% win rate. But they did get 2 top 4s and 2 top 10s, and so managed to snag a 1.38 over rep, which means they're fine. You're really more concerned about anything that's over like a 1.5. A 2 is starting to get egregious, and anything over a 2 is.
That's not a 37% win rate. You're not calling them in any way egregious.
No, that's what I was trying to say when I was just talking about the over rep ratio itself. It's like 1 to 1.5 is fine. Harlequins had less than 10 players, so I'm not even going to consider them a faction this week. Grey Knights had 21 players and a 38.8% win rate. Again, no top 4s, no top 10s, so a 0 for overrep. Or they had 3 top 10s, but still a 0 for overrep because it's top 4s. And then rounding out the bottom is Chaos Space Marines, 4.8% of the meta, a 39.2%, 39.2% win rate, 1 top 4, 6 top 10s for a 0.3 overrep ratio.
Are there any Chaos Space Marine sub factions that are doing better than the aggregate? Because there's a lot of Chaos Space Marines in there.
Let's take
bad.
I know they're all bad, but is one of them doing nicely? Like, if they're we could at least be like, guys, go and play that one.
Black Legion's probably limping into a vaguely reasonable win rate off the Abaddon gimmick. I would comfortably expect to X into with an Abaddon gimmick list.
Black Legion is currently at a 45% win rate for all of ours.
Healthy-ish. Healthy-ish are probably being pushed down by the bonkers meta we're living in at the moment.
Emperor's Children are at a 40. Word Bearers are also at a 45. Creations of Bile are at a 46. And then Red Corsairs are a 47. There is one build with 28 games played of it and 6 players who play it, which is Word Bearers and Chaos Demons, which has a 63.
Word Bearers,
guys. Go play Word Bearers and Chaos Demons. I think that's all you've got right now.
Word Bearers' chapter tactic is chapter master in melee across your entire army in the first round of combat and a 5-up against mortals, and that army still sucks. Thanks, Game Workshop.
Basically, the higher win rate factions for Chaos Space Marines are either you've tacked on Chaos Demons or you've kept on Chaos Knights with Worthy Offerings. Those are the 2 versions of Chaos Space Marines that appear to be doing okay in the data across arcs.
Did anybody play Cogs this weekend?
Cogs? Let's take
Cogs
a look.
of Ashtor. Yeah.
I'll see. Let me take a look and see if it's in here. No. I think that's just because release was on the 18th, which was Saturday.
That is probably fair. But also heartbreaking.
I know. I'm actually very tempted to switch out my list just right now for it, just to play it for one round.
I am committing for a vibe check. Until I get a Seal of pop-off game, I am sticking with what I'm playing. But once I'm done, I'm switching to Cogs. So
okay. That's good to know. So we should all be really excited to watch Cogs massacre folks in the TTS Vibe Check League just for funsies.
It's gonna be
Other than that, we still got Orcs doing well as well. I mean, they've got a 44.3% win rate over the weekend, but I think
really well, by the way.
There
are like 4 Orc players and Orc players, and those are different things.
Yes, and they had 2 top 4s and 5 top 10s. And then we have Space Wolves, or Melta Rats, as a lot of people like to call them, who had 20 players over the weekend, a 46% win rate, but 1 event win, 2 top 4s, and 7 top 10s. Because eventually, if you spam just enough Melta, you will win games.
What's the sub-faction win rate for Space Wolves?
Oh, let's see if I can do this again. There it is. It's split basically even in between Born Heroes, Whirlwind of Rage, and just Space Wolves. But Born Heroes, Whirlwind of Rage has a 55% win rate. There are like 3 or 4 players who are playing Master Artisans Whirlwind of Rage or Hungry for Battle Whirlwind of Rage who have like a 70% win rate, which is probably just an aberration caused by low sample size. You're talking about 18 and 27 games played. But again, successors are propping it up probably. 246 games played with Born Heroes Whirlwind of Rage with a 55% win rate.
Yep.
Play successors, kids.
And Thousand Sons also managed to take home an event this weekend.
Good for them.
With demons, right?
I don't know that it might be with a patrol of demons for that event win. It's not recorded here because those patrols are just kind of folded in for arcs detachments at this point.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm pretty sure it was with Siege Demons.
Yep. But they picked up a 51.8% win rate for the weekend. But I guess what you're really seeing is that most of the power armor factions, aside from World Eaters for Chaos, all just need something stapled onto them in order to perform even remotely function, like in a way that's competitive. Otherwise, for the total of arcs so far, just to talk about this, and it's kind of something I mentioned a little bit, you essentially have 5 factions who are at the very top, and then you have 10 factions that are in kind of the world of needing some love. So you have about 15 factions kind of in the middle that are doing okay. The 5 factions that are doing super great are Gene Stealer Cult, Dark Angels, Iron Hands, Chaos Demons, and World Eaters. And then at the other end of it, you have Tyranids, Adeptus Mechanicus, Chaos Space Marines, bevy of Space Marine chapters, including Ultramarines, Crimson Fists, White Scars, Death Watch, Raven Guard, and Imperial Fists, and 1,000 Suns.
I like that it was just all of CSM, some Space Marine chapters that no one played.
Yeah.
The Space Marine chapters that are bad and the Space Marine chapters that are good exist completely separately because those supplements are fucked up or terrible, and there's no in between. It's incredible.
Yep.
It's nice that you're either a Devastator Doctrine supplement or you're unplayable or you're Space Wolves. Like, there's nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Everything's fine, guys. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Everything's fine. I mean, if we look at all of this for event wins, even though I think event wins by itself is a weak statistic, the faction with the most event wins across arcs so far is Dark Angels with 11 out of 72, which is like 16% of all GT wins for 25 plus player, 5+ round events are Dark Angels. Chaos Demons are actually not that far behind at 9, but then you have Craftworld Eldar, Iron Hands, Astra Militarum, Orcs, and Gene Stealer Cult kind of in the 5 to 4 range, or 6 to 4 range.
You can win a GT with a lot of stuff right now if you have a good path.
Yep.
Doesn't mean it's a good meta, but it does mean there are a lot of options for the second or third best thing at a tournament that can maybe get lucky.
Yeah, as long as you're just worried about if faction variety and diversity is how many different colors of power armored Space Marines exist at the top, like the meta seems to be fine. Everything kind of goes around. Oh, is it bad that Vic Vijay writes, is it bad that I'd rather go to an FLG event than have to deal with the Manchester Super Major meta? What is the Manchester?
We're going to get
Super
to that
Major?
in a little bit.
Vic,
That is
problem,
one of the discussion topics for today.
Vic,
Okay.
the problem with that is we're just a little slower. Like soon that will be the meta here, and then you'll have flown just to play on shit terrain at a questionably organized event to play in the same meta.
So the other problem, of course, is that successor Marine chapters were a mistake for everybody. Dark Angels don't have that problem because they're better run as Dark Angels, not as successors. But for every other Space Marine faction in existence, successors are basically better.
As long as you don't staple 40 rules to staying mainline, you're better off as successors.
Ultramarines are kind of okay right now as pure.
Why would you do that?
Sure. I guess maybe a couple Ultramarines players can probably.
And I reckon fists are coming back because of the thing we're going to talk about later. So.
Oh, please don't.
Hey, they're really good in the Marine mirror. So.
Otherwise, the other thing that I'm starting to see that's just a problem is we're starting to really just condense. Everybody is playing specific factions now at this point, which I think is a larger problem.
I mean, we can answer this question. Why do 2/3 of Iron Hands players still play base Iron Hands and successors? Nobody knows. It's actually one of those, like, you know how there's like Ancient Aliens videos on like the History Channel stuff like that? It's one of those histories, unsolved mysteries. Why do people play pure Iron Hands in the current meta? We're going to talk a little bit about some stuff that may be a reason why you wouldn't anymore. But right now, you're just trolling, or you just don't know. That's it. That's the only justifiable excuse.
One of the things I want to talk about real quickly as well is that Dark Angels are in the top 10 for most represented factions. They're actually in the top 5. They're 5th for most represented factions, and they're a sub-faction of a larger book. There are more Dark Angels players than there are Chaos Space Marine players together in the meta. So I think we're starting to see some problems. It's kind of terrible, but maybe if GW looks at sub-faction data instead of writing in their meta reports how everything's fine except for a couple pure factions.
Dark Angels and cults, bro. Dark Angels and cults, the only problem right now. Please not Dark Angels into the ground so I can just win everything with Iron Hands for 3 months. That'd be great.
There's going to be a lot of green Iron Hands, is all I'm saying. A lot of Iron Angels, Iron Wings, a lot of iron followed by a thing. Like all of those Iron Blood Angels that you're seeing around as well.
It's ironic.
Well, why don't we transition from depression into different depression so we can stop talking about how ARCs is kind of a terrible meta and talk about the meta itself.
Should we talk about Manchester?
Let's talk about Manchester first.
Cool. So this is a super major in the UK this weekend. It's 256 players, standard 7-round thing. There are more Desolation Marines at this event than players, I think.
I mean, I'd kind of hope that was true, just generally speaking.
I wouldn't. It's a brand new kit.
No, they just came out. What do you mean?
They're so cheap on eBay, though. You can buy a 5-man of Desolation Marines for like 30
Get on
it.
Yep. I got my 2
Just
sets
saying.
for 20 and 21 pound each with free shipping.
Start moving now. 'cause
Consider-
if you don't start now, it's too late.
So I'm gonna go on Adam Lane store because Adam Lane did the numbers for me because that means I can steal them and not have to worry about it. Give me 1 second.
I'm gonna just generally complain.
Yeah, that's fine.
This is the single worst thing they've done in a hot minute. I was trying to stay quiet about this in hopes that they would just slide into the like, yeah, that's overcosted, don't bother bracket, and it didn't, and now we're fucked.
I played one game with them for the Vibe Check League with Ultramarines as a joke and started submitting lists with them for events.
He's not exaggerating. Vic said, I cannot believe that every good player jumped onto them. It's literally like, do you expect this person to win Manchester regardless of broken dumb shit unit? Yes. Desolation Marines.
Yeah. So running through the numbers, there are 55 Space Marine players at Manchester out of 250 odd players, which is fairly reasonable, about 20% of the meta. Then we have 23 Guard players, 17 Custodes players, and then Demons, Eldar, and Votan at 13, Necrons at 11, World Eaters, Orcs, and Tau at 10, and then your various smatterings, 8 for CSM, 7 for Death Guard, 6 for Admech, 6 for Chaos Knights, 5 Sisters, Grey Knights, Harlequins, 4 Imperial Knights, 4 GSC, 3 Inari, 3 Tyranids, and 3 Dark Eldar, and a few people who are not declared or submitted. Of that Space Marines, it is 2 Death Watch, Raven Guard, and Black Templars each, 3 Salamanders, 4 Ultramarines, 8 Blood Angels. Now we get into the ones that matter. 10 Space Wolves, 11 Dark Angels, and 13 Iron Hands is the meta for Manchester. Holy shit, this meta is awful. Now let's start talking about some of the lists that are being played. For example, Malik Amin Rubio, who you might recognize from winning an LGT, is playing
And a
30
whole bunch of
Desolation.
other shit.
Yeah, and a whole bunch of other stuff. 30 Desolation Marines in Azrael. Manny Chima of winning everything. 20 Desolation
Also all the
Marines
things.
and 20 Deathwing Terminators. Myself and Brian are both running 10 in Iron Hands. Alex Harrison is running 10 in Space Wolves. Mike Porter's running... I don't think Mike Porter's running any in his Dark Angels, actually, off the top of my head. But he might have 5 or 10.
Mike Porter's not playing Harlequins?
No, Mike Porter is playing Dark Angels. The
Noted
meta
faction specialist
is
Mike Porter.
Seville.
Oh, no.
So let's talk Desolation Marines, because that's really what I'm getting at here. Why is the Desolation Marine a good unit as you understand it, Anthony?
So, my understanding is that there was a handful of matchups that could be a little bit questionable because sometimes people would hide behind walls and just score some points. They could slide out of the game with a reasonable score. A little bit of favoritism in the go second bracket, and they can scoop some primary off you at the end. You might be able to, banners you to the last into a victory. And now, what happens instead is you get shot in the fucking head for 5 turns by these weird Nerf rocket launchers to the tune of like 20 D3. No, my mistake. 18 D3 and then 2D6. The 2D6 portion of which is higher
you
strength.
get the D6 guy still gets the low gun as well.
My bad.
Yeah, it's still 20 D3.
20 D3 and
Plus
then
2D6.
Plus 2D6. Not 2D6 portion being higher ballistic skill, which is important.
Plus skill 2 and plus 1 to hit, just in case you were...
Plus 2 or 3.
It ends up being 2s and 4s for the guys respectively. 1s and 3s in Dark Angels because they get plus 1 to everything still, and 1s and 3s for Space Wolves because they use Keen Senses. Just lots of rerolls for Iron Hands.
Yeah, but which you can obviously duplicate in other armies through the abundance of rerolls that they get.
Yeah, the advantage Iron Hands get is they can move theirs, which is nice.
There's a couple of problems with this. One, the weapon is heavy. If you've played it all in the last couple weeks, you know about this thing called Codex Warfare. So that is a huge fucking problem. Number 2 is...
That's not all they do. That's the number 2.
Number 2 is that strapped to this cancer-ass indirect is a Dark Lance. So if you poke your shiny little head out like, all right, I can't get shot by that indirect again, you cop 18 Dark Lances to the face for your trouble. Now, Made significantly worse by this is some changes that have been made throughout 9th edition to reduce the amount of buffs that things that shoot indirect can get, right? We've all been big fans of core.
Remember how Hiveguard got nerfed by 5 points?
Yeah.
Just randomly?
Now, what'll happen instead is that there's a unit that has core in Space Marines. Now, I don't know if you know this about Space Marines, but there's a whole bunch of buffs that they can apply the second you have the core keyword. This unit is the worst design choice since unnerfed Votan. I was real fingers crossed that it was just going to slide into the Gentle Goodnight, and it is not. The UK refused.
We have never met a unit we could not spam here, and we love our Iron Hands, so it was like natural fit.
Boy, do you guys love your indirect.
Now,
so
let's be wrong. This unit is expensive. There was a world where it didn't quite come together. I don't think we live in that world.
Probably where if they got like another 5 points tacked on to him, you probably wouldn't take
I think
as many.
It's more likely they go down in points because GW just printed them before. From what I understand, this unit was printed as is before the indirect nerf was expected. So they might have just been like, the indirect nerfs come, they're going to be, we'll just drop them down like a couple points model, we'll make the Vanguard launcher free. I could see them go down to like 150 in an update.
I think they could go up 10 points per model and you'd still consider them.
I think you'd run 5 to 10. I don't know if you're going up to the 20 and 30 at that point, because at that point you're like, this unit is 185 points. It is not cheap. 30 of them is 1,050 points. You have to play the game with the rest of your stuff.
But then you just play the game with the rest of your stuff because that 1,000 points just table fucks you, right?
Too cheap as well, because it's Dark Angels or Iron Hands right now. As Vic says, it's also fine if you get rid of Permanent Dev Doctrine. Also very true. Permanent Dev Doctrine was a mistake.
Oh, definitely. Permanent Dev Doctrine was a huge mistake.
I don't even think you should get Dev Doctrine. Like, they just need to put Doctrines back. If they're going to release all this shit, like, it just has to go back.
Yeah, and then the thing that I always started on the path of like looking at these guys is that they started there's a guy on an objective and I don't want to have to send a unit behind a wall to kill him. So like you didn't want to have to give it a Vanguard Veteran Squad or a Land Speeder or your Terminator taking a charge to get off an objective. It turned out they were very good at doing that, but they also did other stuff on the way, and then they get you Codex Warfare points. Marines generally have a bit of a tough time holding their home objective with something that's not terrible, and Desolation Marines solve that problem as well because they're 36-inch range indirect. In Iron Hands, you often didn't have something to stand with your Volkite Contemptor to give it character protection, so you end up leaving a Land Speeder or something back there or Infiltrators. Desolation Marines solve that problem. There's just not much they don't make a little better. If you're in a matchup where you don't really need the indirect, you can outflank them and shoot people with the big guns. Like there's just
also not a combo weapon, which chafes me more than I want to admit. Like it's
separate guns, you can
shoot both and it's fine.
Yep. If you're playing against them in Dark Angels and you tag them in combat, they can just like progress to Tactical Doctrine with any of their CP and shoot you in combat with them. Don't forget that. And then like they're also just like they're Marines. You can't like wrap and tag them with chaff because they'll punch you with 31 attacks hitting on 2s with Dark Angels. It's just not a great place to be. I think this unit is going to be a problem. I think indirect should never be good in 40k, and frankly just shouldn't really exist as a mechanic on other than like single models, right? Like it should be, you could maybe have the Sergeant gets the Vanguard launcher. That's it. And it'd be a strong option, but not great. But the Castle just shouldn't be indirect, is ultimately.
Also, like Marines didn't really have good D3+3 direct shooting at range. Like that didn't exist. All their anti-tank was 24-inch range multi-meltas. And now it's like, surprise, bitch. Here's perfect anti-tank. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. It was like you could run Eradicators, and Eradicators are short-ranged and awkward, and then you now just get Desolators, and it's okay, cool. They are stuck at AP2, except they're not, because they're Space Marines, so they're actually AP3, which as it turns out is like the perfect number to be.
Just enough.
But guess what they're not great at killing? Dark Angels Terminators.
I mean, they're not bad at it. They're better than the alternatives.
They're only okay at killing Dark Angels Terminators, right?
Yeah.
But
they only kill like 6 a turn. Oh.
I know, it's awful, isn't it? I mean, you save on 3s against them as Dark Angels in cover, right? So
I'm not the fucking Dark Lance, right?
Yeah, it's AP3. So 1 out of 7 cover is saving on 3s.
Yeah.
So like they're not great at killing Dark Angels. The problem is you can run them with Dark Angels.
Right.
Mastercraft the Vanguard dudes. I am doing that. That is the thing I'm doing with one of my Vanguard launchers.
Oh yeah, master crafting that thing makes it hilarious. A flat 3 damage indirect weapon.
I don't
Halo
actually
2's
think it's that good, but maybe
it's
I'm wrong.
pretty good. It's a full squig buggy on average, because
Sure.
it hits about as often as a full squig buggy did. So,
I mean,
there's
hitting
worse
on
things for a CP.
with the preponderance of like rerolls that unit can be given, that makes it so efficient at just picking up random nonsense. Like flat 3 damage, or even flat, just keeping it 2 on that Desolation squad. Like all those heavy weapon squads that maybe a guard player was hoping to hold home objectives with or to sit back and screen, they all die just immediately to the Vangor launchers.
So here's the question I'm positing to the chat and everybody here. How many Desolation Marines do you think are in the top cut of Manchester?
Oh no.
The top cut's 4?
4.
60?
60.
I don't think 60 is high. There's not many lists with 20 or more. Most lists have 10 to 15, but
45.
45. I think there'll be 3 lists with them. I don't know what the exact number will be, but I would say, yeah, 30-ish. 30 to 40 seems
You own a Manchester?
Yeah. Me and Brian only have 10, though, so.
45 then, yeah. Nah, 50.
50?
Because that gets me you, Brian, Manny, X Factor.
That's fair. Manny's only on 20, so.
I know, that's 40. And then I think someone else will,
Yeah, I guess it could be 4 Desolation Marines fly out at the top.
Yeah, or Brian will bounce house and Malik will get it, or Malik will get in, a little.
Leave some wiggle room for some like weird nonsense to happen.
Portal will be player forward lane. That's what I'm saying.
It's gonna be rough. Yeah, these guys, the Desolation Marines, go to 10 if you want them to.
They should stick them to 5-mans. That would also work.
They should sit in the.
It would definitely help.
After the Flamer change, where they're happy to change profiles, if you just don't make them indirect, I stop caring immediately. Just like
Malik also just randomly has a Morbid Scorpius in his list.
Yeah, he's made some choices. I mean, he's decided he's winning the indirect war, right? He's like, fuck your stuff, and he's going to kill your Desolations with his and his Scorpius.
Yeah, if anybody decided that they loved having more of a coin flip for that first turn, you've definitely increased the coin flippy nature, because now it's going to be whose Desolation Marines can shoot whose Desolation Marines or other indirect first before everyone else's Desolation Marines get to shoot.
But just think, man, there's people who didn't get the memo are still running Gladiator Reapers, so it's okay. They're still
yeah, it's just fine. It's fine.
Remember that incredibly broken unit, the Gladiator Reaper, that's now unplayable because the Desolation Marine replaces its exact role entirely and comes with an Eradicator squad staple to it?
Yeah, it just does better too. I mean, who thought this would be a world where we decided that Space Marines needed Dark Lances attached to mortars attached to the Dark Reaper indirect weapon, but better?
But yeah, don't worry, guys. Reddit thinks these guys are terrible.
Oh gosh, they're gonna win like every big event for probably they'll win. Maybe if somebody brought them to Adepticon, they'll win Adepticon.
No one has them ready for Adepticon.
Nos will.
Nos won't be taking
Nos
them.
is playing guard.
I know he is, but Nos could have taken them.
Yeah, I just feel like this meta has gone from alpha to more alpha to even more alpha as things progressed.
This close at the end of Nephilim. I'm going to say this until I die. We were this close.
We were one plane nerf away from a good meta. We'd have had a good meta if they'd just been like
maybe remove the Spore Mines too, but
nah, I think Spore Mines are fine. Everybody just overrated them.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do. Fuck you. Desolators release golf was 24th of February for Adepticon. I have no idea.
Oh, was it that? It might have been.
In fairness, everything else about that event is shit, so that makes sense.
Fair. Keep going.
Let's productive. What can you, as a person and a player, do about Desolation Marines?
You can hide like a little bit, like sure,
buddy.
Sure, like there's like a lot of indirect, but you can at least try a little bit.
You can hide like in your house. You can stop going in your house.
You could bring transports, strategic reserves, but strategic reserves is bad because somebody will just Auspex scan you off the table.
I can't wait to take 30 to Warhammer Fest.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm taking 30 to Warhammer Fest. I promise.
My real concern is there's like not a good counterplay to Desolators.
We got through like 3 things that we think have like a reasonable shot, which was like kind of Necrons, kind of Admech, and I think T-Suns are kind of okay. But because you're just like +1 saving it, but
Yeah,
the
but then you
rest
have
of
to
it is all
play-
just kind of awful.
Yeah, the problem
Yeah.
with that is you have to play T-Suns
Everything
and
else that's
Admech and
not.
Necrons. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to play everything else that's not exactly this list. Because like Thousand Suns can mortal wound through the Terminators or the other Marine stuff, and they can ignore the Desolators more or less, as long as you're not giving them line of sight. Because like you're saving on 2s against the indirect, who really cares? But then you have to play Thousand Suns into like anything else, like the guy that
World
mentioned the
Eaters.
memo and didn't bring any, or is playing World Eaters, and that's awful.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I guess like Eric Cutlass is okay into this with like all the trucks because you
Is
can
it?
kind of hide. You get a lot more ability to access their backfield.
I
Yeah.
guess
You
I was
pop
thinking
out eventually with the trucks, though, right?
Eventually, yeah, but maybe you can get enough of a points lead. Maybe you can get back, access to their backfield because you have enough stuff. Like there's worlds, right? Oh, we didn't even mention the best thing. Remember the banner guy that every Dark Angels list runs?
Fuck, God
Yeah,
damn
when you
it.
kill them, they fire back at you on a 4-up. Don't forget that.
At least it's only one gun.
Only one gun, yeah. So they only get the whichever's better of the indirect and the missile.
is it
Yeah.
not just is that not just one gun?
Yeah,
It is
it's
one
one gun, but you choose which gun, and it's not random.
That's true.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, you can't fire both the Dark Lance and the little.
No, but you just choose whichever one is better for the situation, right?
My brain at that moment was like, could you fire just both profiles? But you cannot do that.
No.
Yeah.
I guess I'm struggling to think of like really good ways aside from punching them before you get like they shoot. But they have a 36
Yeah, man, just
inch
run
range.
through the
right?
Dark
Right?
Angels army.
Yeah. Do they have a 36-inch range on those? I can't
36 on
remember.
the it's 48 on the missile launcher, 36 on the indirect.
So you realistically can't even like stay out of range for a turn. Anthony
Vic, you can't fire both guns when you fire on death on the 4-up from the banner. You can fire both guns when you're normally firing.
I guess my brain is having a real hard time thinking of counterplay.
There's not much.
Yeah, that doesn't involve just shooting before they shoot. But
Just not.
that's it. I mean, I guess you could try. My brain is stuck in guard. I guess you could try charging if you could get to them, but you can't because there's 20
this is just
Deathwing
like
Terminators in front of it.
rips guns to bits. Rips guard to bits, right?
Yeah. It's very much it was a really nice guard army you had there until I fired all these Dark Lances and picked up all your infantry hiding behind buildings.
Yep.
I guess
Mike is fucking up. Everyone's sad.
Astartes banner, fire with one weapon on death. Just to confirm for anybody who is confused, we're not talking about their regular firing. When they fire in their shooting phase or on Overwatch or whatever, both guns completely fine. When specifically they're using the Astartes banner ability to fire when dying, they fire back on a 4+. They fire one gun on a 4+, by your choice. Cheer us up. They've just put in Ahsoka for Star Wars Legion. So if you've been watching Rebels or Clone Wars and you want to play Ahsoka, she's there, man. Like she's got the 2 lightsabers and everything. It's gonna be great.
Last Argument of Kings, also dope models. I'm
New Mandalorian episode tomorrow. New Bad Batch episode tomorrow.
That new Necromunda Noble is a super awesome looking
It's a really cool model. I would definitely like to convert that to be like a Jesus Occult Magus or something like that.
Oh,
Lucas. It's got 2 swords.
Yeah, but then I'd have to run a Lucas and no.
There's a lot of really cool Age of Sigmar models coming out, so you could paint those.
No.
Yeah, but apparently, did you know the Bloodthirster in that game has is 8 attacks at D3 damage for the Wrath of Gore Bloodthirster?
It's not even that many attacks, by the way. It's actually less.
It's 8. It's 8 starring. No, the Wrath of Gore one.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
maybe
they're
I
terrible.
did look at that the other day.
No, there are too many
Bloodthirsters. No,
Bloodthirsters.
you cannot fire. There is no indirect in Star Wars Legion, Rick. That's what I'm saying, man. Come on. Even the mortar is just a line of sight gun.
Oh, that's funny.
It's a line of sight gun with a minimum range. That's all I'm saying. Mortars in Star Wars Legion completely reasonable. They're still good as well.
You could go play Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know.
What else
Diablo
is going on
4?
really cool?
Diablo 4. Yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying, I'm going to be playing a bunch of Total War Warhammer 3 and Conquest on TTS. If people,
Chaos Dwarf update for Total War Warhammer 3 is coming out soon.
Let's
They look
fucking go.
amazing.
Yeah,
We might be getting a 10th edition announcement, which would be really cool.
I don't even know if that'll be really cool, so let's cross that bridge when we see
But it
it.
could be. But you know what? It won't be as worse than now. Probably.
We don't know that. What if the super cracks can blow up buildings in us?
What if all those ruins you're hiding behind do
What,
not get
what if you
cracked
could
missiles
fire
are
your
now
regular? What if you could
destructible?
fire the castle launchers at the buildings to destroy them, so that you can then fire the super cracks at the target you were wanting
Yeah,
to
it's like
shoot?
shooting a vehicle in Melee. You like can shoot at the walls speculatively and then try and shoot the shit behind it.
Yeah, you
There's
super crack the
definitely,
wall so your
though,
indirect doesn't take the penalty.
you can now charge through buildings with vehicles, but you have to like do so much damage to them on the way through if you want to do it. Just Kool-Aid man your way
Also,
through buildings
let's
with
be
monsters and
honest
vehicles.
about another thing. A whole bunch of people are about to learn about the only one model needs to see you for me to ignore the indirect penalty rule.
Oh, fuck.
And a whole bunch of people are going to be like, "Wait, what?" And you're going to have to explain that to a bunch of people, especially if you're playing Iron Hands.
That's not a model-to-model check?
Nope, it's a unit-to-unit
God
check.
damn it.
Yeah, I learned that with D cannons.
I learned it with mortars and squid.
That would
buggies.
explain the one drone sticking out, I suppose, from building.
The one drone that is ignored for lookout star purposes, so you can't even shoot them back.
Yep.
All right. Is there anything cool going on in the meta right now? No.
World leaders are a lot of fun.
World leaders are a lot of fun.
They're
I
a
think
little stressful to play.
they're a little oppressive into a few types of armies as well.
Yeah, I don't know what Votan's supposed to do against them.
They're real good in RTT level events. I know that.
Yeah.
Like real
Yeah, that's
good.
why Anthony only played 3 games and bailed, so you wouldn't have to figure out what happens in game 4.
That's right.
Fair. I guess I understand.
Find out what happens in game 4 on day 1 at this event this weekend, because the Canadians don't like socializing. They want to play their 40K right now.
I'm with them,
no,
man. I played 7 games of 40K, 4 and 3.
My favorite thing in 40K right now is that we've fully fleshed out our Dad Hammer theme for the teams event this weekend.
Hell
So
yeah.
we're bringing fanny packs for our dice, beer koozies and beer. We're bringing khakis and
Do you have a
Crocs.
cell phone clip?
I need to find one. I think I have one somewhere in this apartment.
Yeah. Tracks.
Yeah, I'm getting older even.
Yeah.
So
inexorably.
I will get older on Sunday. That is just the rule. That's what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'll be a lot of fun though. For next year, we're gonna bring in, if we do the teams event again, we're gonna bring a grill, like an unused grill, and use that as the display board for the armies. It's gonna be great. Gonna Dad Hammer it up.
Oh yeah, dude. That's awesome.
I'm going to do the plugs. Then we're going to take the one super chat question you've had and then take a break, because I am sad and I need a minute and I need to pee. I wrote a script this week because I hate you all, and I've decided to make it slightly less scuffed, which means that this is going to be awful because I've not considered how this will read, just how it wrote. So, fuck. Oh no, Anthony's muted. He's going to judge me.
Did you just drop it again?
No, it's
okay. I just wasn't
Come
sure
on,
for
man.
a second.
I'm not until Nathan shuts up. All right, everybody, and thank you for watching StatCheck so far. We couldn't do this without all of your support, and so to that end, if you're in a position to, you can check us out on Discord for access to our Discord at patreon.com/StatCheck. That gets you to access to all of our back bonus content, as well as being able to speak to us on a daily basis, because we're all in there, because we don't want to play 40K right now because Desolation Marines exist. So that is $5 a month. You can get access to the Discord and all of us. We do things like TTS leagues. You can speak to any of the hosts, ask us questions that will get answered on the show, all that cool stuff, as well as just being in an awesome community. Otherwise, we greatly appreciate you dropping anything like a like or a comment on whatever platform it is that you use to interact with the show. So if that's YouTube or your Spotify or whatever podcast app, there's always review functions, stuff like that. Helps us out greatly with discoverability and just knowing that you guys like what we do, or if there's anything we could be doing better. Also, you can watch us live every Tuesday at, it's meant to be 11 p.m. GMT. It's been an hour earlier recently because of daylight savings, but that's also 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, and then various times across the globe that commensurate with that. Nathan, please don't thumbs up me. It makes me feel very patronized. Finally, or not finally, you can also check out the other shows on our network, which are XM1 and Into the Matrix. XM1 is every other Thursday. That'll be going live. It's 12 p.m. GMT. I don't know the time conversions of that one by heart, so I'm just not going to do them. I'll be on that this week, which I'm really looking forward to. We'll be going through getting better at 40k, specifically with helping Cliff, who is deciding he's going to take the shackles off and actually focus on getting better as a player in a specific and deliberate way, which we're bringing me on to start that process. So we're really looking forward to that. Tim should be launching some article series to go along with that, which we're really excited for. Enter the Matrix is Typhus' show that is a little more sporadic. It comes out whenever Typhus can generate some content that he's interested for. It usually launches on Fridays, and that's going deep dive into everything Teams meta. Recently, Typhus was at the Eurotrash Cup, which was an event in the Netherlands. There's also an event in Italy on the 12th and 13th of May that we should be covering, and they're going to be doing episodes about pairings for 5 and 8 man teams and all the differences there, as well as event reviews for those. And then also we'll be building up to the WTC, where Typhus is going to be doing hopefully some coverage. So we're really looking forward to getting ramped up to that. And it's some of the best 40k content out there. If you're interested in teams, and if you're not, you should give it a listen anyway, because it will help you become interested in teams, which is very, very important. Lastly, both myself and Typhus do offer coaching, which you can check out at stat-check.com/coaching or by emailing us at coaching@stat-check.com. If you're interested in improving your game in any way, shape, or form, we're both super excited to help you, and we'd love to hear from you. That is all I have for the plugs. We are going to quickly answer the one super chat question that came in, and then we're going to take a short break for 10 to 15 minutes, which we will it's probably going to be 10 minutes. So we should be back about 5 past 11 or 5 past whatever your local time is. The one question we have from the plugs was from Dan Morris, who asks, what Simpsons character would each Stat Check member be and why? So I am very, very definitely going to be Ralph Wiggum.
I was going to say you were Groundskeeper Willie, but that's okay.
How dare you, first of all? That's a stereotype. Come on.
Like I've got nothing. I didn't watch The Simpsons.
Anthony's just Bart.
He's Milhouse now. For not watching The Simpsons, he is Milhouse.
Rude. Bart it is.
Oh, geez.
We apparently don't know. It's all we got.
There's a lot way easier when I had to do you guys as WoW raid stereotypes by classes. That was super easy.
Yeah, but I didn't know any of the references. You said something and I was like, I don't know. Dan agrees that Anthony's Milhouse, and I think that Dan is right here. Mostly because I trust Dan implicitly in all things 40k.
Okay.
Right, so let's slide into the break then.
Let's slide into the break. I'm going to go and use the bathroom. I'll be back in 2 minutes, and then we'll be back 5 minutes past the hour. If you're listening to the live show, we'll be back in 8 minutes. If you're not listening to the live show, we're probably going to slide in something like an ad here, because that's just how we roll. This should be pretty seamless. Stick around.
I wanna show something funny that I saw in our Discord to the chat, because all the chat people are here.
Okay.
Here it is. Just for takes on Desolation Marines that are proving to be wrong.
Oh yes. Yes.
So we got Nassim. So these are the kinds of things. These are the kinds of things you can see in various places where it's Nas saying that Desolation Marines are too expensive, Glarg saying that they're great, and then Nas saying that no, pricey, not in this economy.
That's right.
Just so people can be aware, because definitely the takes when Desolation Marines first came out was tepid.
Just had to be quiet. We just had to be cool. We were so close. Couldn't do it.
Yeah. If they get points cuts, I will, my brain will actually explode, I think. Apparently somebody's going to deliver something.
All right, chat. It's just you and I now. What the fuck did they do? I don't know what deletes the you have to see the Desolators or make contact with the Desolators to delete them. I don't know what does that.
Hey man, somebody might have 9 support platforms with Shadow Weavers with Masterful Shots and also 3 Night Spinners. And I really hope that guy just goes first. Yeah.
Again, you just need to go first.
I would love to see that though. That'd be fucking great.
I mean,
not to me. I'd rather
fuck those dudes up pretty good too.
If you can get range, though, 24 is a bitch.
You just forward deploy right on the line.
They're still 6 inches longer range than you, though, right? So it depends on what deployment you're getting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the solution of tag them in combat just seems rough when somebody's got 10 to 20 Deathwing Terminators standing between you and them.
Yeah. Nick, I've lost control of that chat. I've tried several times, but I don't pay enough attention to it since the army's shit now. And people are going to just do what they want now. I can't do it.
Raven Guard time. Yeah, man. Strike will tag them all.
There you go.
Yeah, Ashley Thompson, 9 Shadow Weavers shooting into squads of 10 will kill 3 Desolators, and an Apothecary makes that 2, and then revives 1 the following
Most lists
turn.
aren't running the Apothecary in any way reasonable to be near him.
Seems
Like Manny's list.
trolling.
Manny's list doesn't have the Apothecary. I don't think Malik's has it for that either. No
No.
Iron Hands list is running an Apothecary. Space Wolves can't run an Apothecary. So it depends.
Plane smashing artillery seems like a bold move because if they come in off a board edge and then you Auspex scan them with your Desolators,
They go away.
Yeah, aircraft can't counter indirect because they don't start on the board, and you're not going to have anything left if you start putting enough planes off the board to counter the artillery.
also if you put the aircraft on the board, they come off the board right away. Well,
It's extremely cool that they hit on 2s in Dark Angels if they don't stand still. If they stand still, which means that if they out to Auspice, you just hit you on 2s.
yep.
Extremely normal.
Do they still hit on 2s?
Yeah, they'd be standing still that turn.
So they get +1 to hit, so they go to 2s, right?
Maybe
Because they get
3s and
+1.
2s specifically planes, but I'm just meaning generally with all specs.
I just mean
+1
because the indirect modifier is a ballistic skill modifier, right?
Yeah, but I'm talking if they're shooting you with
If
the
they're
direct
shooting
fire
at
guns
planes,
at planes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, if you get Auspice side Death Marines in Dark Angels specifically, you just go away.
they're super dead.
Unless your game plan is to tank Dark Lances to the face. The Talonmaster Ignore Cover ability is actually specifically Raven Core only. It's the only time they've ever showed restraint in any data sheet ever. Is that
But
he
we're
can only
not.
hand it out to a unit he can see, and it's only for Raven Wing Core.
But Deathwatch can do it just fine.
Deathwatch can do it just fine, but Deathwatch only get 1 turn of Death Doctrine, so it's okay.
For now.
Yeah.
Also,
but
you can
whatever.
just take your Imperial Knight and break your Super Doctrine and be fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
Also,
boy.
they get Vorkon's Pattern Auspicator in that list, and also Dome of the Ectoglades. It's also messed up. It's like the it's like the fun one where you pair the mirror match, and Deathwatch are like disgustingly the best in the mirror match of Desolation Marines. Because their Desolation Marines just rip other Desolation Marines a new one when you pick the datasheet you reroll wounds against to be Desolation Marines.
Oh no!
And so yeah, so my squads ignore your cover, so they're effectively +1 AP, and also I reroll wounds. What's your plan?
Oh Lord.
At least Salamanders have the reduce AP by 1 back, so maybe they're pretty good in that match.
Yeah, because it's only AP2. Sure.
Yeah, that means they're saving on 2s, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, you're Salamanders.
Yeah, but Salamanders, I don't know. I keep coming back to like 6-man Eradicator squad actually kills Deathwing pretty good with Vulcan, but there's so many things wrong with the process of building to be Dark Angels because you build to be Dark Angels and you lose to everything else. Because you've teched 2-beat Dark Angels because nothing plays like Dark Angels except Custodes who turn off rerolls anyway. And then in teams, if you try to do this, they just don't pair you because why would they? So it's like just not worth teching to them at all. We need an independent rules generator that doesn't care what someone wants. No, because you can't trust the agenda of any independent body. That's the problem with it is unless we all agree to play those rules, which nobody will do while GW is running events that people care about. It will never work until the game doesn't exist anymore. An independent body will never be capable of running the game. They also just force the community in a bad way.
Yeah. Look at me.
It's just bad.
Conquest is dope.
So is Legion.
Conquest is real cool.
I might do a Legion Day after Home Nations.
MCP
Thankfully, only 2 teams figured out fucking Desolations in time for Home Nations. So
I've been
it's going to be a good event.
I've been introduced to Malekith and MCP, so now I'm up to play that game too. That guy's cool as fuck.
Yeah, I keep looking at MCP and I'm like, I really just can't afford to get into another game right now. I'm already far too invested in these 2.
Yeah.
Shatterpoint does look kind of neat, but it's also really expensive. And I don't think I'm going to like it more than Legion because I like the army scale stuff with Star Wars. So
Wait, isn't Shatterpoint the skirmish game?
yeah, but I prefer the army scale stuff.
Why is it expensive to get into?
The core station is really expensive.
Okay.
Not that you would fucking care, Mr. Mythicos, but
Whoa. Credit's gone. It's Mr. Rogue State now.
that's true. Right, let's run a 10 seconds pause to give Curie a chance to edit this, and then we're going to get back into the main show. Welcome back to Stat Check, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us through that short break. We are now going to get on to questions from the chat and Discord. We're going to run for about another half an hour to 40 minutes on this, depending on how long we've got. Right, let's just get straight into the show questions. If you want to ask us a question, you can do that by checking out our Discord, or if you happen to be watching the live show, you can do a question there. Oh my god, there are so many questions. You guys often break down top performing factions to look at what sub-factions are the most problematic. Are there any examples of the opposite? Poorly performing factions where there's actually a decent sub-faction that just isn't the popular way to play? What middling factions do you think might actually have some nuggets of gold hiding away in there? So the first thing with this is it's actually kind of hard to tell because often those low win rate factions just don't have the play rate. That when you see a sub-faction that's having a really high performance, it's often because there's one or two people playing it fairly consistently and doing better than their average. But it's hard to tell if that's because the sub-faction is better than the faction or because the player who is specifically hyper-focusing on that is better than the average. That was one of the things. So I had read this question in advance when we did the Chaos Space Marines bet, which is why I asked to talk through some of the things that were better there. So because Chaos Space Marines remain a reasonably high player rate faction at 4.8%. But it's hard to tell because we don't usually have the numbers for these factions in any meaningful quantity. Nathan, do you want to go in on this one?
For the hard thing about rare sub-factions is, like Inna said, it's really hard to parse apart like a player being a specialist at one specific thing. And it's hard to make broad statements with small amounts of data. And I really don't like saying, oh yeah, this faction with like 0 representation, but has an 80% win rate definitely is the dark horse faction because it has one person who's played it and has like 12 games from that one person. Sure, it has an 80% win rate, but there's a lot of considerations when you have like 1 to 5 people who've won lots of games, is that GTs, despite being larger events and that we try to sub-select down for larger events to kind of dodge some of the issues, is that there's some local meta effect on events. And it's the reason why we get rid of RTTs as often as we do, is that those meta effects are way bigger in smaller events where faction selection tends to be smaller, but also that you tend to have more local meta effects in RTTs. In GTs, that local meta effect tends to get smaller because people are tending to pick the most efficient options. So those data points tend to be more meaningful when you have larger numbers of players playing them. So if you have just 1 or 2 people playing them and with an 80% win rate in just like one geographic area, it probably means less. I mean, there are some examples of lesser known factions that then come up in the meta later. But I mean, right now what you see are people playing less common sub-factions like Successor Iron Hands, who are just amazing, but less people are playing them. Or you have situations where people are playing like 50 different varieties of them.
Let's see.
That's kind of like my answer to that question, is that sure, you can look at it and maybe there are some factions in there, but when there's like less than a number of games played, you can't really make any large scale statements about what is going on.
I think
And then the second part, sorry, Anthony.
I think there's some stuff that was like flying under the radar in Demons for a bit that's now pretty exposed, like Mono Slanesh and Mono Zinch, that are both like quite strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, definitely seeing a lot of uptake from both of those.
Yeah.
Sometimes when books are deep too, you just see people cycle down to like, they have to innovate, so they cycle to the next best thing.
Yeah, like we saw with Nick's bunch,
everybody
right?
picks up. Right? Yeah. Like everybody moved to Thick City, or in the case of Demons, like a bunch of people are moving to Slanesh right now.
Or
Do
like
Eldar have good sub-factions? No, probably not.
What in the depths of transhuman hell is going on, fellas?
Adam, they broke it, dude. They fucked up.
They done did fucked up.
Yeah, they goofed. They goofed.
It's the desolation of smog.
Part of the problem too is like, sure, if you're really good at like looking in the weeds for like that one person who's 6 months ahead of everybody else, because they're a faction specialist, you might be able to find one of those things. Like you might be able to find that one person who was playing pure Slanesh while Flamers and everything else were really good, but the data probably says that they're not doing as well as the mixed list. And that doesn't really come to huge fruition until later when the meta at large picks it up. And it's really hard to predict how those kinds of things will act. And I actually think the community is generally bad at predicting what's going to be good.
That's super hard.
Like during the break, I showed him a brief capture of a top level player currently, Nassim, being wrong about Desolation Marines, right? And now Desolation Marines are everywhere.
Yep.
So even top level competitive 40K analysts and players can sometimes just be wrong about the next.
I honestly don't even remember what I initially said about them. I think I said they looked cool and I'd stab someone if they were core. And then they were core. I still think they're pretty expensive as a unit, but it just kind of doesn't matter because the rest of Marines are so cheap.
Yeah. And for me, when I first saw them, I was like, they seem a little expensive and their profiles seem just kind of okay. Like you want them, but they do both things, and you learn like as people start to play them. And one of the challenges is it's hard to play like every single release as it's coming out, like in large enough numbers to have an informed opinion about how good something is going to be in the meta.
It's way better to just have an uninformed opinion and just hope you're right. Just spin the fucking wheel of fortune and hope that you don't have screenshots and saying that you're wrong. It's all 4K is about nowadays, is making sure there's no screenshots of anything you said wrong.
And then also there's just like the challenge of like the hobby side of this thing can be challenging if you want to be even remotely good at it. So like sometimes things just take a while to be done quickly.
So standards or pay someone else.
Yes. And even paying somebody else is not a guarantee that it's fast.
It can be.
Like, it can be if you pay enough money. If you throw enough money at that.
It's the cheap, fast, good, right? You pick two.
Yeah. Yes. Like most triangles about. Yeah. But
my stuff looks good.
Yeah.
It's not cheap, I guess. That's fair.
Yeah. That's you pick two.
You pick two of the three.
Yeah.
I would just argue that the community, and especially like the Reddit of the community and the Facebook communities and some of the Discord, like faction specific Discords in the community, are terrible at predicting trends in this game based on small amounts of data. So you should just not do it. You should just not try to use small bits of data to predict massive trends in the
unless
game.
You're us, in which case we do it because it makes you guys watch us. So just remember that whatever we're doing, in all things, question our agenda always. It's always to make you come back.
And it's good to be to think critically about your sources of information and to consider where they come from for those pieces of information, and to consider the larger community of competitive analysis as well when making decisions. Critical thinking is important, kids. I promise.
It's very easy to be right about a unit half the time and have that be the only one anyone remembers. We have been, like, speaking for myself, I am very quick to have an opinion on anything in 40K. And I'm right a lot of the time. I'm also wrong a lot of the time. And I could not tell you what my opinions were on a lot of things. At this point, I'm like, I barely remember. It's really just not worth it.
I mean, the easiest one for me was the Blood Angel Death Company list. When I first saw it, I was like, fuck off, no way. And then I played it a single time and went, oh, I'm an idiot. Never mind.
Yeah, it can be very easy to get lost in the practicalities of something and then not think about how it actually comes together on a table. And some things just, if you were just applying them in a vacuum to the things that exist currently, just aren't that great. But when you apply them in a new context, or you consider the rules and the dynamics that they change in a faction, actually becomes a thing. And that was where I ended up with Desolation. I originally was like, these seem kind of expensive. I want to test them. They look funny. And then I tested them out, and then I started thinking through some reasons like why they would be good, why they're really good for Codex Warfare, and starting the objective trade. And that played into like running 5 to kill an intercessor behind a wall that ran away. And then that increased to 10 because I'm like, well, I want to guarantee I kill that guy, but also have enough indirect to start threatening people on like guard because they can start killing mortars and things like that. And then the natural progression of that is if you feel the need to, you can go to 30. Do you have to? No, there are matchups they do make weaker, right? There are some things that they're not amazing into. The rest of your army can fill in that gap, but we're expecting changes to things like Deathwing Terminators that might result in this not being as big a problem after we see the post Manchester United on FAQ. Might. Anyone know what I was showing said Manny would do this? I'm not surprised.
He was right.
It's true. The other thing that I want to say, just very briefly, is that it's okay for people to be wrong initially and then to revise their opinion upon getting additional data. And it's okay to be wrong with your first opinion and then to correct yourself later. Like, you don't have
Or
to
not
dig your
correct yourself,
heels.
pretend it never happened.
You can also do that. And hopefully people, instead of doing that, will take into consideration new evidence and change their opinion.
Also, none of this was even remotely related to the question we were asked, so let's move on.
I don't care.
Which
That
factions in the
question-
Goldilocks zone do you think are there because GW actually did a good job balancing them? Almost none.
I think the meta is so hard, like has so many interactions with other pieces in the meta, right? You have 31 factions cross-interacting with one another. Go ahead, Anthony.
Orcs.
I don't think orcs are balanced at all, but sure.
There's no army that I've played against orcs and been like, orcs are broken when I play against them. It's just not a thing that happens.
You should play Votan into them sometime. Tell me what you think after that.
I mean, that's Votan being terrible at dealing with lots of units at the same time if you can't beam though, right? That's not orcs being broken.
That's, I think, one of the things to consider when we talk about Goldilocks zones, though, right? Is that some factions have 90% fine matchups and then like 2 matchups where they die horribly. And that's probably okay, to be honest. Like, if you are competitive in 90% of your matchups, but have terrible matchups in 2, that's probably fine.
I will say, if you primarily play singles, that feels like shit. But if you play teams, that shit's fine.
Yeah,
I just think that's also okay from a balance perspective. It's like in a game with 31 or 32 factions, it's okay.
There will be some that are better and worse.
Yeah,
it just depends on the degree, right? Like better and worse as a spectrum is fine. Better and worse is like Votan into World Eaters versus Votan into Imperial Knights. Very different thing.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Also, Elo was adds an addendum discussion. Is the GW defined Goldilocks zone of 45 to 55% a good metric? No, not at all. It should be considering things like play rates, and it should probably also be 53 to 47. But you should be considering play rates, win rates versus other factions. If you ever want to really have a look into this, go and have a look at the Riot Games' like design document for how they do nerfs and buffs in League of Legends, which is based on like everything from play rates at high levels, play rates at competitive levels, play rates at low levels, win rates at all those levels with different sliding scales based on how problematic it has to be in that level and what kinds of nerfs they induce. Those are the kind of things that GW should be doing and could be doing with better data analysis, but aren't and are just kind of like going win rate.
One
there
challenge,
are better ways to do this.
And then I agree with you. But the one challenge with 40K and the way it exists and the way that we track data right now is that level of granularity is almost impossible.
Cool. Do better.
I agree. We should do better. I think
all it needs is a better list parser and a better list and a better event software, and you can have all of this data 100%. It just isn't there because the best list submission sub format is Battlescribe for some reason. The best event format is event submission software is PCP, and the best tracking app is Tabletop Battles, none of which are GW run. GW could and should have their own proprietary version of every single one of those that is all combined and gives them all of the data for all of the games that are played for 40K, but they don't because they don't care enough or are incapable, like whatever. I don't want to judge them and be like, they don't care enough, but they're not doing these things. There is a gap there that would allow them to do all of this that they are, for whatever reason, not doing, whether it's choosing or not being able to or whatever, it's not happening.
Yep.
Right. Oh yeah, and I'm not saying that like you just like they should copy the LOL approach, but they should definitely like consider a version that riffs on the same kinds of ideas of different levels of play for different things being different impacts on win rate, because RTT win rates are not the same as GT win rates and are not the same as individual play in your garage win rates, right? These are all different things.
100%.
Okay. What would you do if game time at 10th is bad? Unfortunately, 10th. I played
I
through
mean-
8th. 8th was bad too. It's fine.
I mean, I'll probably play 10th regardless, but I will definitely play a lot less of 10th if it's shit.
Go play a lot of 10th teams.
Yeah.
It depends in what way it's shit. Is probably the best way for me to answer this. If it's like, if that terrain destruction shit's real, there's like a good chance that Anthony plays a lot less 40k in 2023 and 4.
I could see WTC just banning that mechanic. So
Sure. I forgot that I do have the catered, beloved, like, let me fix the game for you gays of Neil and Tom. But, you know, like,
Nobody
we
wants
ain't gonna
need
fuck
to
about
do
with shifting
that.
worldscape, guys.
it's fair.
Yeah. I think I would also play less 10th and maybe focus on secondary games some more. I don't know. There's other stuff to play. There's other stuff to spend my time on.
There is.
Okay, with DA and Iron Hands being some of the gatekeeper lists, how do you play into them? And what does Guard specifically do in those matchups to win? Even more so with Desolators. Run more tanks, bro.
Basically. Yeah.
Your infantry ain't living, so
You
Yeah,
you
don't
best be
bother.
running just the maximum number of Lehman Russes.
make basilisks and manticores.
Stop.
Those
It's not gonna work.
Earthshaker carriers
I know
and
it's not
hope
gonna
for the
work,
best.
but I'd like to see somebody try. Outflank a Baneblade. It won't die to Desolation Marines, at least on all specs.
For a moment I was just I don't know.
Anthony, your face.
Turn 1, charge them with fucking Scout Sentinels and pin them and then hit them with Death Strikes.
Genuinely, maybe the answer.
Like
Triple
run
Death Strike. Just
triple
pinpoint
triple Death Strike, 9 Scout Sentinels, run them
Where
all
are you
forwards.
hiding 3 death strikes?
WTC boards, bro.
Look, man, I'm gonna coin flip. I'm gonna coin
Actually,
flip
if
for
Guard are
this
just unplayable now, I
matchup
can maybe just put 2 in my. I can put a patrol with 2 in my Gene Stealer cult. Maybe that's the play.
Oh
There you
my god.
Welcome
I'm
to
thinking
hell.
in the world where if I could get a 50% win rate into those factions, where it's just do I win the turn 1 go first roll or not, I'll run triple Death Strikes. I don't care if they need to hide. They don't need to hide. They need to do their one pointing that one turn. And then the Scout Sentinels need to charge and pin them in a spot. And then they just need to cause 48 mortal wounds to their stack and it goes away.
Cool. Will any of you be doing the pub crawl at Manchester? Well, I'm the only one going to Manchester. I will probably show face and then do a bar and go home. Because, unless I've lost a game, in which case I'll do whatever the fuck I want. But yeah, Scott, I will be there. It would be lovely to meet you. For the Rabid Guard haters on the show, how would you fix Guard? This could be broad strokes, the general theme and usability of the faction as a whole, with a brand new codex rather than little tweaks, blah, 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 blah. Seems like some of you just hate the faction on the ground up. I just give every army access to Desolation Marines.
You just give every faction Desolation.
No.
Except Guard, obviously.
Except Guard. Okay.
Christ.
Tell me you wouldn't run 30 World Eaters Desolation Marines, Anthony.
I wouldn't, but I would run the fuck out of them in Emperor's Children where they're real good.
I think like the thing that you do most is you just target like a couple of things. If you're worried about Kasserkin, you target them specifically and you make it so that you cap the mortal wounds at 6 and that they can only target 1 unit. There you go.
Born Soldiers doesn't count as a 6 to wound. Stop fucking doing that.
You could also just do that, and then you probably don't need to do anything else.
No, then also cap them at 6. Do both.
I don't think you need to, but okay.
Cap, drop mortars down to strength 3 and Desolation Marines. Get rid of take aims, extra AP as an order. Should just be +1 to hit. Lord Solar should just be hit rerolls, not wound rerolls on anything. Sentinels should be a pre-game move, not a scout deploy, not a forward deploy. There's a lot of things. I think that bug's just fundamentally broken, but Guard players are also fundamentally broken.
No.
Inside emotionally, yes.
Well, they almost join the military, just like they almost win 40k games. That's going to end up being the clip now. God damn it.
Prediction and ranking for home nations. I should probably explain this one a little bit. Home nations is the most important secret event that ever existed. Nobody gets to know about it except the people who are there. So sorry, no idea. Do you know? Except your team's going to come dead last.
Got them.
Fucking Netherlands think they can shove to the UK and just win tournaments.
Scotland bringing the heat.
No, but England will not let them do well, and they're in England's group. So, Tips for helping grow / foster a local community and a good vibe in a said community. Anybody who shows up with Desolation Marines, just take them out back and shoot them.
Don't do that.
Be the people in the community that people want to talk to, right? Play fun games with each other and talk about it afterwards. Have a group chat where people are active and engaged is my general recommendation. Discord is great for that. Although
Yep.
people are generally more likely to check Facebook Messenger, I find like a messenger group chat is a good way to keep people, because you can check it on your phone a lot easier, I find. But it depends.
Yeah.
Depends what level of organization you're going for, right?
Just run some slow grow events.
Run some slow grow events, run escalation leagues, run ladder leagues, whatever you got to do to just get people engaged and playing, and just be the people you want to be, the kind of person you want to play against, which is to say, be approachable and reasonably fun, and give people a challenge, because people will usually respond pretty well to a challenge and being like, you get them in the gut of wanting to improve and wanting to do what you do. I stepped back a lot from doing this, but this is what I used to do a lot of.
Be an exemplar of the hobby. Be all of the things that you would want a 40K player and 40K community to be.
Have sometimes reasonable terrain that people want to play on that's better than what they have at home.
If you have problems with individuals in your community, make sure to address them early and often to make sure that kind of stuff doesn't fester in your local community, because that can be a problem for growing a scene.
Yep. Will 10th be previewed at Adepticon or not?
Sure.
I think it will be. I think it will be soft previewed, and then the actual preview will be at Warhammer Fest.
They're launching the website on the 23rd.
My actual genuine guess is that the box will be available at Warhammer Fest for people who are there. But
that'd be cool.
New NIDS.
I guess we see maybe the lion. We'll probably see the lion this weekend as well. That's probably a thing that happens.
That'd be cool.
Despite having 4 NID players in the Team USA roster that theoretically would get them before me, I would fucking hope. I am pretty excited for new NID stuff. NIDs are really cool.
There's not been a new Tyranid model that wasn't a character since 2013, so almost 10 years. We've had the Broodlord and the Parasite, and that's it in over a decade. So I used to have a reminder on my phone every year for the birthday of the Broodlord, because we went 6 years before we got a new model.
Jesus.
We went 6 or 7 years between the Broodlord release and the Parasite and Mortrex. December 18th, by the way, for anybody who's curious. I actually have no idea. I think it was December 18th. Might have been November. I would love to see new NIDs. Be really cool, because NIDs are my baby faction. They're the one I'll always play if they're an option. Will the Thundercoil Harpoon ever be good? Remember that leak that we propagated about it being just flat 10 mortal wounds plus D3 plus D3 splash on the wounds and everything within range. Yep. If they just printed that in the current Night Codex, it'd have been completely playable. It wouldn't have even been damage. It wouldn't have even been broken. Yeah, it should just be a Magna Rail, but on steroids.
100%. I think the Thundercoil Harpoon is just good every now and then when you fire it and it just straight up murks something, but never in any other moment of time.
Shut up.
That comment, for anybody who was asking, was Sumo saying, "Anthony, you're the captain. You get the first pick of factions."
Right. Who from Typhus asks, who from the stat check team could win a fight against a kangaroo that's the same weight as them? Well, a kangaroo that's the same weight as me is just a kangaroo, so no, 100% no.
I don't think anybody in that chat has seen a kangaroo. Kangaroos are fucking dangerous, guys.
They're real dangerous.
Kangaroos have nails that will disembowel you on their feet, and they will kick the shit out of you.
Yep. I'm good.
No, thank you.
Also, a kangaroo that's my size is probably some fucking alpha male kangaroo that just walks up to me and then kicks my head straight off my shoulders.
That's
TLDR, what do I do on Death and Seal deployment against aggressive pressure armies as a defender?
You hope for the best.
You suffer. That's their best missions. Their conversion and Death and Seal are the best missions for aggressive armies. You've got Data Scry Salvage to hide in your corner. They get one. Deploy far away, go to the sides, try and avoid them, focus on scoring your points while mitigating theirs. Give them things that they can charge. That means they can't get deeper to the deployment zone. You're going to have to sacrifice something. It may as well be the garbage or coin flip it. Those are your choices.
Usually you can catch less than optimal players out by being like, hey man, here's a couple of 7-inch charges into garbage, and then people will move up into ridiculous positions and chase them. That works more
Good
than
players will do that too.
Yeah.
How many Desolation Marines is too many Desolation Marines? I think 20 is about the limit of where you really want to go. You start getting into real diminishing returns territory after
You're
that.
just skewing after 20.
Yeah.
Like you're fucking around on purpose. 20 is
Like
probably
10 to 15 is good. 20 is I have a reason to want a squad of 10 where you have like a stratagem or something like Keen Senses and Space Wolves, where you have like one that you want to sink more resources into. Chapter Master is another good one.
Yeah.
But like 10 to 15 is like I want a couple of Vanguard launchers and some indirect. And then after that, you're kind of getting into you need a specific reason to go to 15 to 20 to 30. And 30 is probably too. And then for game balance, as Ashley says, 5 is way too many. I think 5 in their current state would be fine if they were like limited to 5-mans and we didn't have arcs attachments. Then they'd be fine. But
Dark Angels can also spend 2 CP to essentially give them +2 to hit.
Yeah, which is kind of, and it can be +3 to hit if that moving means they get into line of sight of you to fire their indirect.
That's what I'm saying. So
yeah.
You guys don't need to keep making us depressed by asking about how efficient Desolation Marines can be.
You do not,
It's
but
a
you
thing
should
that
because
need
we
to do.
deserve it. Where did the egg meme even come from?
Just one day in chat. I don't know.
Somebody asked a question about eggs, and we kind of
Off the rails it went.
It's like we've got eggs and we've got peaches. Like those are the foods of StatCheck Discord at this point.
And beans.
And beans, yeah. Eggs, beans, and peaches are the 3 official foods of StatCheck for whatever reason. The peaches one I know where it came from because it was me, and it was because the like the screaming peach is by far the best of the welcome like wave flags on Discord. And I stand by it as being the only one that's actually good. And I would set it and the only but we now have people genuinely cheering when it happens, which I think is great. So yeah, if you want to join the StatCheck Discord, once you've been welcomed with a peach emoji, you're officially part of the team. Beans is because of the story I once told about literally vomiting at somebody describing beans to me, which is to say specifically baked beans, the UK delicacy that are my least favorite food on the planet.
Yeah, you just jam those sons of bitches in some Uggs and you're off to the races.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And that's why our meme channel is called Beans and Bears, because I hate beans and Anthony hates bears.
It's true.
And then eggs. I think someone just kept asking egg questions.
It just went off the fucking rails one day, as StatCheck Discord is wont to do.
The StatCheck Discord is definitely a silly place in like the pure definitions of silly places.
It is chaotic good to chaotic neutral, depending on the day.
Yeah.
Chaotic comforting is like what I frequently like to call it, and I think that's roughly accurate.
It's very much you will be okay, you do not have a choice.
Yes. It's ominous positivity, the Instagram page.
Ominous positivity is my favorite thing.
And then Preston asks, hey, can you review my list real quick? Black Templars with Hellbrecht, 30 Desolators, and 6 Impulsors. Bad. You will also lose the Desolator War because yours don't get cover.
Well, you could just take cover. That's optional for what it's worth.
Yeah, but then you're not getting the invul, so then your Impulsors are going to die to their Desolators.
Your Impulsors get it for free now. What do you mean?
Yeah, but then you don't get the gun.
You get the multi-melta still.
Yeah, but you want the missile launcher as well. Like, that's the point of running them in Black Templars.
The D3 shot missile launcher.
Yeah, it's better than
the indirect war. Also, you win the indirect war. All your Desolators start in transports, bro. Easy.
I keep coming back to like, what if I just put 5 in an Impulsor in Iron Hands as well?
Yuck!
Go chasing that angle, bro.
Ugh.
Put them in white scars, jump out of it, advance, and shoot them without taking the penalty.
Fuck.
I'll probably run that sometime. That sounds great. Let's not go to the StatCheck Discord. It's a silly place. No, everybody should go to the StatCheck Discord. Only £5 a month. It's patreon.com/StatCheck.
That's right.
That's how you can join things like our hardest TTS league ever kind of thing. That's how you can join that kind of stuff.
And the last question from Discord is, when do we get StatCheck top trumps with a preferred egg on them? We could probably make like StatCheck top trumps for like the 7 of us just as like promo art. That'd be kind of cool. I'm not going to do that because that's way more effort than I'm willing to put into a bad joke. But thank you for the question. All right, if anybody's got any cool questions to chat, we'll run for another 5 minutes or so, and then we will sign off. Are you playing WoW again, Anthony?
Not yet. I also haven't played against Desolators yet, though, so stay sharp, kids.
Teams. How many team games are played? How many team events are even run? Lots. We just they don't get spoken about a lot because like the Reddit meta doesn't cover them. Goonhammer only covers them occasionally.
That's
There are a lot
changing
more team
too.
events than you think there are. That is changing as much as we can make it happen. End of the Matrix is doing a fantastic job. But there are team events almost every weekend. They are just quiet, secret, and in foreign languages.
Yeah. Bristol GT. Who's going to Bristol? You going to Bristol on this?
Bristol is the very wrong side of the country for me, unfortunately. Bristol's like, it would take me as long to get to Bristol as it takes me to get to you.
What? Oh, flying versus driving? Surely. Yeah.
No, flying to Bristol. It's like I would have to go to Glasgow Airport, which is like 3 hours away from me, and then I would have to spend 2 hours at the airport, fly to Bristol, which is an hour and a half flight. Then Bristol Airport's like an hour and a half from Bristol. It's like 8 hours comfortably.
Oh,
I could do the Edinburgh to Newark flight in about the same time.
that's true.
Bristol's a trek. I did a Bristol event last year. It was a pain in the ass. I wouldn't recommend it. Plus, hotels in Bristol are super expensive.
Is Bristol really nice? Is that why Bristol hotels are expensive?
Bristol's okay. It was just, it might have just been the weekend I was trying to go. It was like early April. It was just super expensive. Will the 10th box have markers for destroyed terrain? No, but it will have markers for destroyed dreams.
Yeah.
No, will I be at Bristol GT or Northeast Open? I will also not be at the Northeast Open because Northeast Open is the week before WTC or 2 weeks before WTC. So I think we've got Northern Warlords teams, which is like the middle of July, and then we have a 3-week event embargo before WTC so that we can do practice weekends, which I think covers out not being able to do Northeast Open or Leeds GT, which are both ones I would love to do, but just couldn't make. I did not book a hotel in Bristol. That is true. I booked a hotel in Bath, which was a mistake. But I definitely just read the name of the place wrong. Is there a big difference between US and EU medalists? Anthony, you've played in both. So have I. What do you think?
The lists aren't terribly dissimilar, honestly. Like the shit that's good in one is usually good in the other. They're just tuned for their specific things. For example, on the old UKTC layouts, they didn't care about hiding because that was fake and for idiots. So you got shot on whatever objective you wanted to stand on. So it made more sense to take more guns. Whereas on US terrain, often it would be GW terrain, so there would be less guns. You can see like a pretty stark difference in theory between my Coventry list and my GW Chicago list. But it just depends a little bit. There's a small difference in players across the aggregate. The UK boys at least get a little more flustered when you put the pressure on them. Like you play aggressively into them and they're like, this is not how Warhammer is played. And then they break. At least that was my experience.
I found American players got real antsy if you didn't just run at them, and they would run at you because they didn't know how to deal with you playing a slow game, which was fun. Yep. Also, Nassim does the same thing. So
NOS plays like US player. So yeah, that is kind of the
US players also have big, oh no, I'm losing the secondary game mission, and will just like panic and start doing things that they should not. Whereas UK players are like must primary.
Yeah, the US, as compared to like all other metas I've noticed, get real freaked out when secondaries go askew and forget that there's like a second scoring component. That's a little bit Art of War's fault.
Yeah, man, primaries is you write down 8s every turn, right? And then you figure out the secondaries.
Yeah, people seem to think that. So yeah, that's like a thing I've noticed. I could not tell you what like the rest of the aggregates like past like I've played a fair amount of European games now, but like I've only played the one Aussie game and I got skull dragged, so couldn't tell you across the general what that goes like.
Ash asks to Ennis, how sad will Northern Ireland be when Wales does better than them again? Well, you did worse than them at last Home Nations, but Northern Ireland's team this year looks a little like they've not got all their players, so we'll see what happens at Home Nations. But it's in Wales, so if you guys don't make top cut, then you're kind of trolling, because surely you guys have the easiest time getting players to fucking wreck them. So honestly, embarrassing if you guys don't top cut.
To answer Glarg, I've not been bullied into going to Warhammer Fest. I am not going to Warhammer Fest.
You sure? We've got space in our hotel.
Dude, it's like a week after Alpine. I have to come home.
It's 2 weeks after.
Emma. Yeah,
2 weeks after. Bring her and I'll bring Fergus.
Oh, Oh, that might work.
How does Scotland get its own team when the US is all shoved into one? Well, you see, the simple answer is that we're a
Oh,
country,
fuck.
and that because we're a country, we get a team. That's the definition of a national team. Is if you are a country, you have a team. Scotland is a country.
Scotland's a
See how that
country?
works. Yes, we are. Thank you.
Scotland is
Having
a
to
country,
re-explain
yes or
that
no, Google.
to ignorant Americans is my least favorite thing.
Mm.
When they're like, why are there two Irish teams? And I'm like, don't ever say that in front of them.
Yes.
Two.
Scotland is the second largest country in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Do you know how cool it is to be the country that defined countries and just get to change it for yourself? I love it. Embarrassment aside, the pies look great for the weekend. We definitely had a look at what the other food options were nearby when we saw that the only lunch option was pies, but we'll see. How do you join teams? Well, there are a few different ways to do that. One is to find a team event and cram people into it.
It depends what type of team.
Yes.
Like national
We're going to get to
team
national
is a different
team.
answer.
Yeah. I'm going to get to that. So if you just want to do a local team event, like whether that's ATC or Canhammer teams in Canada or Northern Warlords or ITC or Birmingham teams in the UK or any of the various ones across the many countries like Eurotrash or Winter Teams or all the like the Netherlands ones, it's just show up with a group of friends and you'll pay for a team ticket and you and your group of 3 to 7 other friends will go to the tournament and have a great time. If you're specifically looking for your national team, my recommendation is to go to the worldteamchampionship.com website and go to the countries page and find the community page for whatever your local team is. So, for example, for us, it's a Facebook page and a Discord. For America, I believe you guys are a Facebook page. Canada runs off a Facebook page and a Discord. You'll reach out to them and then you will inquire as to what their application process is. And it's different for every country. It very much varies. And then you will at some point in the year be able to engage in a process of applying for your national team. Whether you'll make it or not, entirely up to how good you are. But it's the best way to get involved is to just ask. There's no one size fits all for any country across the world. For example, if you're wanting to play for America or England, it really helps to know the captain really well.
It helps less for America.
I'm joking. I'm winding you up specifically.
Well, I'm not
for Canada, you need to know exactly who Canhammer are and also live next to Canhammer. All these kinds of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very much up to the time. Get a golden ticket, join me at Warhammer Fest, Anthony. I really want a golden ticket just so that somebody has to pay for me to go to a GW event. That'd be great.
I can't wait for Kansas City.
Yeah. I'm going to have a really wild October, November. It's going to be mental.
Yeah.
It's currently looking like New York for a week, then San Diego for a week, then fly back for Coventry, then fly over for Atlanta if I get a ticket, and then run my own GT the weekend after.
Let's go.
It's a real busy 5 back-to-back weekends of 40K.
Awesome.
Meanwhile, I'll probably play a different list to everyone because I can't help myself as well.
Yeah.
Right. With that, I think we should wrap up.
Okay.
Unless anybody has anything else they want to talk about for us, guys?
No, I have no input on team stuff. I got nothing.
Oh yeah, you could also just go to Adepticon teams with your group or
You
whatever.
could. Oh, that's true. That's not even really a
that.
team. Let's. So Adepticon teams is 4 people each bringing 1,000-point armies, and then you play a 2,000-point game.
It's weird doubles, I know.
Yeah, it's weird doubles.
But anyway,
it will be a lot of fun.
I'll do the wrap up now. Thank you again, everybody, for watching StatCheck. I'll refer back to all the plugs you did earlier. You can check out the Patreon at patreon.com/StatCheck. You can check out the YouTube at youtube.com/StatCheck, which is where you can get access to all of our new episodes. We're live every Tuesday at various times across the world, mostly, for me, 11 p.m. GMT. You can also check out our coaching at stat-check.com/coaching or email us at coaching@statcheck.com, where you can inquire about getting either me or Typhus to give you a hand in leveling up your 40K. You can also check out the other shows on the network, which are X1 and End of the Matrix. X1 will be recording on Thursday with me, doing a dive into getting better at 40K, specifically focusing with Cliff as an example of how we can start making those steps towards becoming a better 40K player. Cliff did passably well at LVO. I think he went 3-2 with a drop, or 3-2-1 with a drop, something like that. Which was completely reasonable, but Cliff is looking at leveling his game up to the next level, and we're going to be getting started on that. Tim's also going to be producing some more art to go with that. End of the Matrix is our Teams Focus series, which is run by Typhus of previously Team Poland and WTC refing head ref, and that is some of the best team content in the world. If you're interested at all in the teams format as we've been speaking about it today, you should definitely have a look at that anywhere. And you can find all of those anywhere the podcasts or YouTube videos can be found. So that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, as well as all of your collection apps. Otherwise, thank you so much for being with us, everybody. We'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like, comment, subscription, or review on whatever podcast software you use. All of that's really great with helping us out with discoverability, being seen, and getting to continue to bring all of this to you. Otherwise, thank you, everybody, for being with us. We will catch you next week. Have a lovely week. Good luck at any event you're at this weekend. Good luck at all his dust and the Adepticon. And for myself and Manchester.
Bye-bye.
Fuck Dark Angels.
Fuck Desolate.